Okay, hi everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to create a diptych similar to the one that I've been showing you earlier. For instance, this one here, and then the ones that we looked at that were done by the artist, Louise Hawson. Okay, so we're connecting two images that have some visual similarity, preferably two. Okay, for instance, you know, this image of the lacy shadow of a church gate with this image of lacy sort of pantyhose. And then, of course, it's going to be linked by a caption. And in this case, San Lorenzo, Rome, objects of devotion. So they're both objects of devotion, but in very different ways. Okay, so that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to make 4 of those, 4 of your own diptychs using your self-portraits, plus a photo that you are going to take around the house or in the backyard or on your balcony. It can be a close-up of something. It just basically means you need to open up your eyes and look around and see things. Okay, you need to look. Okay, so let's go back to Photoshop. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new document, and I'm going to pick a size that I don't normally use. I'm going to go to print, and I'm going to use this letter size only because it's not too elongated. And I'm going to click on that. I'm going to call it Diptych 1, and I'm going to make it landscape. Okay, so I'm going to click on that to flip it, and then I'm going to click create. So now I've got a kind of a nice rectangle that's not too long. It's not A4, which is, I tried that out earlier and I didn't like it. I think this is the closest I could find to what Louise Hawson was doing. The next thing I'm going to do is just make sure I've got my layers, my history, and my tools. And I can see that I've got my layers and my history, but not my toolbar. It seems to disappear on me. So if you lose something, just go to Window and click on what you need. In this case, history, you need your layers, and I also need my tools. So I'm going to click on that, and there they are. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to place both of my images on this document. Okay, so I'm going to go File, Place Embedded. Now I've put those images in a folder called Diptychs in a VA folder. I'm going to click on apples first. That's my apple image. And while I've got these little this bounding box, I'm going to stretch it out just so that it covers the whole thing. And you're probably thinking, Miss, that just covers everything. Well, it doesn't have to. I'm just going to move it over to the side a bit because I know I've got to fit Vicky in there too. Okay, and I'm going to press enter. Now I'm going to place Vicky on there as well. I just want to show you on my layers, there's my blank background and there's the apples. Okay, now I'm going to go File, Place Embedded, and I'm going to put Vicky there as well. There she is down the bottom, place. And there's Vicky. Now, the way I arrange these images is really, I've got I can do whatever I want, basically. I can make her bigger. I can make her smaller. It doesn't really, like I can put her over here, for instance, just to make that apple on her computer stand out. I'm going to click enter. And before I move on, if I want to change the size again, and I've already clicked enter and the bounding box has disappeared, there is a shortcut and it's Command T, and it'll give me back that box that I want, and I can shrink it a bit if I need to. And then I'll click enter. Now, Vicky is here in the layers bar, in the layers palette. She's on top of the apples. I can actually drag her underneath the apples so that the apples take up more space if I want. So I can do that. I can also move Vicky. To move her, I've got to click on her and then I can do that, right? I can also cut parts of Vicky's composition out. if I wanted to. Okay, so if I've got too much on this side, I can just grab this rectangle tool, click on it, and then I can just make a rectangle on Vicky on this layer and then delete. If it does that, if it says you can't edit it because it's not a raster, just right click it. Okay, if it does that and rasterize it, okay, and then delete, and it, you know, and then Command D to get rid of those marching ants. So now Vicky's taking less space up, but I can still move her over a bit. Okay, so that's pretty much the diptych. Actually, the apples I think need to be a bit bigger. Actually, I'm going to move them over. Okay, so yeah, and then I did say I wanted to make this section a bit lighter. Okay, I've shown you how to use the dodge and burn tool, but I'll do it now. I'm going to go to Vicky's layer. I'm going to use a tool called dodge and burn, which is hidden behind this lollipop. Dodge makes something lighter. Okay, it gives me this brush. If I click on the curly bracket, it's a shortcut to make it bigger. Curly bracket key is under the delete button on your keyboard. And I can just softly lighten that. See how it's lightening it very gradually? So I'm getting that effect that I wanted. I want it to look like this shirt. So I can do that. Over here, I've set the exposure to 14%. If I had it higher, it would just like be even stronger. So I can do that as well. Okay, I think gee, it makes her look very religious almost. It's quite a interesting image. I actually might just move her a bit. That's the move tool there. I can move her over a bit if I wanted to. I can even make her bigger. Command T and stretch her out a bit. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Once I've done that, I can then save it. It's up to you whether you want both images to be equal in size or not. I kind of like them when they're equal for some reason. And then I just go File, Save As. I'm going to save it twice. I'm going to save it as a JPEG and a Photoshop file. I save it as a Photoshop file because I might decide tomorrow that I want to open it up again and move it around. And I can only do that if I keep the layers, okay? And the way to keep the layers is to save it as a Photoshop file. So I'm going to click Save, and then that's going to go in my folder. And then I'm going to save it again as a JPEG. Why? Because I want to put it in my Google Slides VAPD. So scroll down to JPEG, and then you'll be able to insert that into your Google Slides VAPD. The last thing I want you to do is give it a caption. You might have to think this one over. I decided to call this one, I forgot what I was going to call it. I was going to call it The Fruits of Our Labor. And fruits of our labor is a metaphor for saying, if you work hard, you will be rewarded. And Vicky looks like she's staying up all night, working really hard on her art assignment. So she's going to be rewarded, maybe. And then this is kind of like the fruits of our labor in terms of, you know, I grew an apple tree and I looked after it and I picked the fruit, and here's the fruit. So that's kind of a double meaning there. Okay, so tomorrow or Thursday's double, you will make 4 of these. So you've got a double lesson, which means you should start photographing today in order for you to have enough images to use for your 4 diptychs. Okay, that's it. Thanks, guys.